Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. I hate this show. I hate attempts to educate me while I'm trying to enjoy my cartoons. I really hate people trying to tell me how I'm destroying the planet simply by existing and preaching about the environment on and on and on like an Al Gore speech, but less funny. Okay, difficult as it may be to believe, I'm sure there are people out there who have no idea what this is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Captain Planet, about a group of teenagers from across the world with magic rings that go around trying to stop polluting assholes, and they summon a superhero called Captain Planet to win the day. And of course, then there's the butt of every joke about this series, Mati. Each of the rings was based on an elemental force, but since there were 5 of them, one person had to get stuck with a made-up power. In Mati's case, it's heart. Yeah, I don't think a single person across the world looked at this show and thought that heart was a good idea, even if they were a fan of the show. So why am I focusing on Mati in this introduction? Well, let's dig into Captain Planet and the Planeteers number 3, and I'll tell you. Okay, it's Mati, and holy crap, look at that! Mati is freaking leading an army of animals with his ring! I mean, geez dude, he's even got the squirrel riled up! I'll show you what kind of power heart is, you sons of bitches! I mean, not just a squirrel, but a turtle and a bunny rabbit!
Oh, it's no ordinary rabbit! Look at the bones!
But of course, any badassery that may have resulted from this cover is quickly quenched by the pun, heart attack. I can sense you all, and then cause palpitations. We open to a terrorist group taking control of a missile base. Oh boy, where do I even start? Well, how about with the title of the issue itself, The Power of Heart, written in bright pink with a nice little heart behind it. You've got to love how they juxtapose this with the terrorist firing into the air. Speaking of the terrorist and his shooting, because of how crowded the page is, we've got the sound effect pushed all the way to the left so that it looks like the guy next to him is just making the sound with his mouth like a little kid would. Next, wouldn't you want your missile base to have a little more security to it that could fend off a couple of random losers in sleeveless jackets? And finally, the terrorist yells out, "Nobody move, we're taking over this base!" To which one of the technicians at the control board responds, "Just a minute, who are you? You can't come in here! If you want to take over this facility, you have to make an appointment with the receptionist first, mister!" You've got to love it in fiction whenever someone assumes that yelling to the heavily armed individuals, "You can't come in here," will somehow make them so ashamed that they'll instantly apologize and walk back the way they came. Of course, the lead terrorist named Bleak is not intimidated. "Shut up, Baldy!" Baldy? But you're... forget it. "Now see here, we've got guns, and that means we can do whatever we want. We can order off the breakfast menu at McDonald's after 10. Anything!" Bleak contacts his boss, who's hiding in the shadows like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, but anyone who actually was a fan of the show, you know, the only people actually buying the comic, will recognize him as Loot and Plunder, one of the recurring villains of the TV show. As the Nostalgia Critic pointed out, who the hell would do business with people who had names like that? And this guy is supposed to be an example of capitalism gone rampant! Not to mention, what parent would actually name their kid Luton? Dear Lord, suddenly Haiku Steel Edge is a positively legitimate name for someone. Anyway, Bleak then makes a transmission to America, because of course a missile base has lots of transmission equipment. "Sorry to interrupt Inspector Gadget, kiddies." Wait, didn't I just make an Inspector Gadget joke? Oh, I see what you did there, comic. Yeah, that's about as clever as it gets. It's all downhill from here, folks. "My name is Argos Bleak. I had a large mercenary force of ruthless terrorists." Oh, sweet merciful crap, where to begin? First of all, what terrorist group ever loudly announces that they are terrorists? And not just any terrorists, but ruthless ones. Do you think they'd put that on their business cards? Because yes, they have to distinguish themselves as ruthless terrorists, because otherwise they may be mistaken for terrorists that show restraint. "Me and my men have taken over MacArthur Missile Base. In 2 short hours, we will be launching a missile full of toxic waste directly at the heart of Washington, D.C. Unless we are paid the sum of...
$1 million.
Okay, first of all... They say earlier that indeed the missile base was loaded with toxic waste and the intention was to shoot it into space. While that's a very nice idea in theory, there are a couple of reasons why we don't do that in the real world. 1, it's really expensive to shoot stuff into space, more so than just storing it in a desert. 2. A million things can go wrong with shooting something into space, especially since it needs to clear the gravitational pull of the planet, or else we'll just rain toxic death over a nice big chunk of the planet. 3. Again, considering all that, you'd think there'd be a hell of a lot better security for all this. Secondly, $1 million? Are you kidding me? Look, $1 million is a lot of money, but we're expected to believe that Luton Plunder, who's already a businessman and probably makes hundreds of millions of dollars clearing away forests for cows or whatever, is getting a cut of this. So why the hell are they asking for such a paltry sum? To make matters better for all this, some senator or something says that they can't raise $1 million in time, but that they'll have to try. Forgiving for a moment that $1 million is actually a pretty small sum in a governmental budget, are you kidding me? They're actually gonna give the terrorists what they want? By the way, people, we're only 3 pages into this thing so far. I think we're in for the long haul in this one, folks. We cut to the uncharted island called Hope. Well, if it's uncharted, how the hell does it have a name? If Gaia knows about it, it was charted by her! The Planeteers are testing their powers out by shooting at a floating volleyball. That Gaia is constantly coming up with new ways to test us. Yeah, thanks, Gaia. Instead of using their superpowers to put out fires or fighting crime, they get to play around with a volleyball. Your tests are so well thought out. Wheeler lights the ball on fire, just making it more likely to injure someone. Linka comments, "Not a bad, Wheeler, but this will really blow you away." Speaking of blowing. And of course, each team member has to make idiotic puns while they do this. Eventually, the ball heads to Mati, who does absolutely nothing, and the ball just falls next to him. Wheeler mocks Mati for it, and he even quotes the often repeated, "What the heck kind of power is heart, anyway?" It's useless, that's what it is. Mati is the weakest one of all. Ha ha ha! God, you know it's bad when the guy named Wheeler is making fun of you. If this were a normal group of teenagers, they'd smack the asshole upside the head. But of course, they just try to comfort the whimpering little dork while he goes all emo about his power to read minds. Wait, what? He can read minds? The power of heart lets him read minds? That doesn't make him useless, that actually makes him more valuable! Anyway, Gaia tells them about the situation with the missile base. If that missile is launched, the nation's capital will be completely unlivable. And, you know, all the people who are already there will be dead, but maybe that's implied. Gaia, of course, is only there to serve as Zordon to the teenagers that she sends into harm's way without actually getting involved herself. Then again, considering the government apparently doesn't have any special forces they can send in, it's no surprise that our only hope is the Legion of Losers here. Mati isn't done being emo, though. "The only weapon I have is my own heart, and right now that's a very small weapon indeed." Dude, you're a telepath! You can use an enemy's psychology against them! You can find out hidden passwords or strategic information just by looking at them! It's not your heart that's small here, it's your brain! The Planeteers arrive and are immediately confronted by an impassable obstacle. How are we supposed to get past that fence? A fence? Bleak, you ruthless bastard! It takes Kwame to point out that by using Wheeler's, Gee's, and Linka's powers together, they can create obscuring steam to make it so no one can see them going over the fence. And, you know, shrink their clothes while they're sweating from the heat, but whatever. "Hey Henry, do you see a big cloud of fog coming this way?" "Yeah, there's something suspicious about it." "It's kinda unnatural, like it was meant to hide something." Dear Lord, they're just so ruthless! The 2 guards, of course, can't be bothered to at least fire a warning shot into the mysterious cloud of steam, and the group sneaks past them into the missile base. They find 2 more guards, and Wheeler uses his fire powers to burn the Uzi that one is carrying. Yee! My heater's too hot to handle! I'm just gonna let the sheer idiocy of that line sink in. Mati steps up and uses his own powers to pacify the 2,